Hi, everyone. I'm Wa.
And I'm Chris, and welcome to Docu Sweeties.
We're two longtime friends who discuss the riveting and sometimes trashy world of reality TV and docu-series.
Yes, but through our own lens, which is, of course, can be bitter, can be spicy, it can be salty mostly. At the end of the day, hopefully a touch of sweetness at the end. Bye, I'm done.
No. We are so salty, just bitter and angry biddies.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about in this episode is a docu-series.
Sure.
We found another one. It's called The Sins of Our Mother, and it is on Netflix, and it is about a woman named Lori Vallow, who her and her husband are convicted of the deaths of her two children.
Well, not yet. Well, we'll see what happens. It's Sins of the Mother. So just
what did I say?
Sins of Our Mother. Oh. So our mothers are sinful in their own ways. It's not the same as Lori. Sins of the Mother would be mostly this, Kobe guy. But anyway, basically, yes. So as we get into this, we don't know where you stand in your knowledge of this. This is somewhat new. This was just happened in the 2019, and then of course COVID happened, so not much since. So I knew about the story going in. What? Did you ever hear the story now that you've
No, I didn't know of it in real time. Mm-hmm. So that's why watching this was a shock, and I was like, wow, this happened in last year.
It certainly did. So on this episode, we are going to break down the first episode of Sins of the Mother, which is, of course, again, the story of Lori Cox Vallow and then her family and her surrounding life, and her very intense relationship with spirituality, religion, and there are going to be some common themes of other docuseries that we have been able to watch and review, as well as on this episode, we are so pumped to have our good friend and yours, Kate Casey from Reality Life with Kate Casey, on to talk about this series. And she has a unique perspective as, of course, being incredibly diligent professional podcast hoster.
Yeah.
That her podcast actually had two guests from the docuseries that we're doing on her. So she actually had one of the doctors who did the forensic psychiatry for it, and the director, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was actually really cool that she was able to interview those two people. This is episode 1. It's called The 144,000. If you guys are at all familiar with Revelations, the book of, and the Christian faith that uses the Christian Bible, there is a passage or two that talks about the 144,000 people who will be making it to heaven.
Yeah.
And so
short list.
Yeah, very, very short
VIP list. That means VIP of
yeah,
VIPs.
That means just
artist pass.
I mean, this is for a time when there were only 1 million people on the earth. You know what I'm saying? This is not a time where there's
it's even more exclusive now. It's there's more black cards going around this world.
It's this is 144,000 is
no one.
Nothing. It's not even a small country. Maybe it might be a small country.
I'm sure there's more Club 33 members.
Yeah. It's just crazy. So we start off with hearing her son, Kobe, who is basically one of the, if not the main narrator of this documentary. P.S. The documentary, the pacing of it is a little weird. So we're going to talk about that too, because, we come from that sort of background. So he talks about Lori being a wonderful mother, and that belief will take you to a different place. And we also are introduced to Janice, who is her mother, who had her house in the LDS. That's how she says it. My children were raised in the LDS church. And she has her husband, Barry, whom we only see one time. And that's it. Barry was like, I'm going to give you one interview and not much information. So
yep,
that's it. So they just talk about how they had a big, loving, happy family. From Janice's point of view, nobody was ever upset. She had 4 kids, Lori being the third child, and her 2 oldest kids being Adam and Alex, and then Lori, and then the daughter, Summer, who we only see one time in an interview, not even in the actual interview of the show. So Kobe talks about how he was mad at his grandmother for defending his mother for so long, because he felt like, shenanigans were ensuing and the grandmother didn't do her due diligence. But what we're seeing here is a woman who was unable to cope with the fact that her family situation had gone so in a direction she would have never assumed. And so she was like, can't be true. Impossible.
Yeah, she comes from that grain that was probably like, we don't talk about our problems. There are no problems. We're perfect in every way. She has she has a very youthful spirit to her. I mean, she sounds like she is, on this podcast with us. She has a very youthful sound to her voice or whatever.
100%. It's like I looked down, I heard a voice, I looked up and I said, that is a youthful sound that came out of that woman's mouth.
Yeah.
So her and Barry says that when Lori was 8 years old, that she was already influenced by the power of the Lord, that she had a strong faith in Jesus. And the people around her also said that some of her antics, she would also say that the Lord spoke to her. So it was very important for everyone to know that Lori was very devout, and that she, spoke to God. At some point, she told people that she was actually speaking to the angel Moroni.
Yes.
Which is, the angel that helped write or was aided in the Book of Mormon.
Yes.
Joseph Smith found in a forest, and also provided the magical glasses necessary to read said book.
Yeah. The grandmother is a lot of things. And, I think that with Lori's character, the mother becomes even more fascinating. She was like, yeah, Lori, had her first son, and then she had her second daughter, and she was like a little baby, 5 pounds, just like such a little small one, and like her mother is slight too. Like it feels like, and her mother, for being, God bless, up there, is never going to have a gray hair on her.
Yeah.
Like not the type, not the type.
Not the type. She goes to the beauty salon and she gets her nails did, hair did, everything did. So interesting enough about Lori, and this is no shame, but she got married very early with no kids. Yeah, she got married very young.
Yeah.
Right after high school, didn't have a kid. Then she met a man named William.
Yeah.
Married him, had a kid. Then her and William didn't have a good relationship.
That was
so
Kobe.
She divorced William, took Kobe, met a man, and married a man named Joe. And Joe seemed very sweet and loving to Kobe. And he remembers like, oh, finally we have a family. And then they had baby girl Tylee. And when Tylee was about 1 year old, Lori decided that she was going to enter the Miss Texas pageant. And so she became, a little pageant queen, a little mama pageant queen.
Yeah. And she she sucked in that tummy, honey, because she was like flexing those abs, and those abs were good. She lifts, she did the whole bikini walk. I mean, she has this clip from what looked like one of the interviews where she is dressed up to the nines in that kind of like glam 90s look, like black sequins, God bless, like velvet, some sort of, puffy head, updo. And she's like, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, and I have to do so much. It's just basically like I'm a ticking time bomb. And they showed that a lot, and that part was scary. And I think, like Kate Casey has so many kids. I feel like she must have watched that. I was like, that's me. We can ask her later. But yeah, she, she likes having all eyes on her. She likes to feel, I think, important.
I think one of the most important things is that she was on the Wheel of Fortune. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, this is like, they didn't go enough into that.
Yeah.
First of all, I was on Family Feud, so like I love being on one of those kind of shows. But she is on this episode of Wheel of Fortune, and she has what they must have put extensions on her, the stripiest extension, my love. Like it was like J-Lo performance style, where it's like brown, blonde, brown, like, but like even thicker, chunky as the day is long. And they're like, well, what do you do, Lori? And she's like, I'm a mom and a hairdresser in Austin. And she was like, well, you must be single-handedly keeping up that Austin hairdresser scene. And she's like, yeah, pretty much. And I was like, oh, it was a bad place to get a hair color in Austin during the 90s.
Yeah. So she was doing the damn thing, and her sister-in-law, Joe's sister, said that she felt like Lori always wanted to like be on stage performing somewhat. Like there was something about her being the center of attention that I think was intriguing to Lori. It ends up turning out that Joe was abusive to Lori, and the sister-in-law wanted Lori to leave Joe and actually remain friends with her after she and Joe divorced. But also another thing that prompted the end of Joe's divorce, Joe and Lori's divorce, is that Kobe came forward when he was 8 years old and told his mother that Joe had been sexually abusing him. And I think that something in Lori broke at that moment. Like, she was already protective of her kids because all of the, man to man jumping was an effort to be the perfect family. She grew up in what would be considered a perfect family, right? Mm-hmm. And she just didn't get it the way she wanted to. So she was going to keep trying over and over again. And then she jumped into the lap of a pedophile who, cased her and abused her daughter. Abused her son and abused her. So she got out of that relationship, mm-hmm. and she got, she turned to the temple is what they described it as.
So this was a little confusing to us, and someone who, we're not Mormons. And so there is something like, there's the regular Jesus Christ Church of Latter-day Saints, and then there are like these subsects that are like, well, there's like the fundamentalist Mormons that we know from like sister wife situations or whatnot, and then there are the ones that are like more, I think, the apocalyptic and or not ones. So whether like how much they intertwine or how secular they are, or sorry, insular they are between the other kinds of Mormons, we're not quite sure. Love to ask. But yeah, basically she has audio of talking to someone being like, I turned the temple because my ex-husband raped my children and I was going to either murder him or get the F out. And then we hear that her brother, who is a stand-up comedian, has a set joke where he's basically like, we have to do something and it's also a felony, but it's the right thing to do. And he discusses about that he tasered this dude's junk in like some sort of retaliative move. Now, what happened with that? He says he got a felony.
Yeah, he said he was on probation on stage, and his mother would describe him. This is, Janice, Alex's mother, would describe him as like the funny one in the family. And so, was no surprise that he ended up becoming a stand-up comedian. And like from this point, we start to realize that, not to realize after we've watched it, but that like Alex is somewhat very close to his sister Lori. And he went over there and handled business in the way that I think a big brother should. I mean, I didn't fault him for going over there taking a taser to Joe's balls. They needed to have a taser taken to. Mm-hmm. So then she meets a man named Charles through a client at her shop. And Charles is, everything that I think Janice wanted for her daughter.
Me?
Colby even says that, while I do think my mom loved Charles when they first met, I also think it's the fact that Charles provided stability.
Oh, financial stability, honey. And that sounds great.
He wanted to take care of her and her 2 children.
Yeah.
And he also had
some boys.
Yeah, had some kids too. Mm-hmm. As well as they later ended up adopting Charles's nephew's child who had autism, and that child is called JJ. So Colby had Colby, is they're actually pronouncing the L in that. The Colby had 2 younger siblings, and that is Ty Lee and JJ. And JJ is the child that has autism. And it was described that Ty Lee and JJ were very, very close. So Colby started to notice that when Charles and Lori got together, that she became very religious, and that slowly things around the house started changing. Like pictures of the temple got put up in different places, and it just became a super, super religious place.
Yeah, there must be another, like, some sort of delineation between okay. So icons and whether you can honor them. It's like, I sometimes know a little bit about this because Catholics are someone who like have saints, and in like, the Byzantine church, we have literally icons and we like venerate them, which I know other Christians are like, absolutely not.
Because it literally says, take no other God before me. So if you actually like pray to an entity, then like, are you taking another God before you?
It's a version of, like, it's like we're doing this for you. We're not like thinking that this is better than you. If God came down and was like, it's me or this icon, we wouldn't be like, it's the icon.
Yeah, I think, and also the difference too is the priests are the priests in the Catholic Church kind of like guide you through your relationship with God, whereas in other sects of Christianity, like you have a personal relationship with God. But yeah, so it's definitely interesting because I don't know what the Mormon edict is on that, but the temple, this holy place, became very, very important to her. And Lori at that point said that she started to see sister spirits, and they would like come and kiss her on the cheek. And then she got some kind of energy from one of these ghosts. I mean, not ghosts. What are
ghosts.
they? Spirits. Angels? Yeah. Mm-hmm. She got she got the word that she should move to Kauai. So the family with Charles picked
that's what weirdly also that's what my crazy ghost spirit angel tells me to do.
That's what your spirit sister comes and kisses you on the cheek and says,
all the night, please go to Kauai. Marry someone rich and move to Kauai. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. Let me get there. Who do I have to step on to do so?
Yeah. So they go there, and once she gets there, Lori gets very holier than thou. She feels like Charles can't keep up. Mm-hmm. Even though he gave up drinking and did everything he was supposed to do to become a proper Mormon, she felt like, no, you're not here with me in the zone. You are not somebody who is like traversing dimensions. You can't tell whether or not you've had past lives, and so therefore you are not as good as I.
Yeah, she's feeling herself also because she can do natural texture hair right now because she has really, really thick hair. So like in Hawaii, it's like probably, obviously very humid. So she's just like putting in a little like curl cream and living her life. She feels very good about it. Like they had the best 2 years of their life in Hawaii, and I get it. Like probably having like the yummiest Japanese shaped ice, honey, and just like on the beach, like she's doing it all. They're definitely, I'm sure like she has peppered in some pigeon into her talking. And so when she goes to like the market, she like tries to pretend that she's lived her whole life.
Yeah.
Hand to God.
And she says that she honestly doesn't sleep very much because the angels are just talking to her all the time, giving her instructions. And so she had a good friend there named April who we get to have an interview with. And April is like, yeah, no, it got crazy then. She was telling me she was like seeing things and she was hearing stuff and that, she would complain about Charles all the time, but it seemed like they had such a happy relationship. But also meanwhile, at this time, Kobe has to move back to Arizona. Mm-hmm. Because he's going to school and he's met a nice girl. And so he's like moving on with his life, but he still loves Kauai. He loves being there. And so we start to get a little glimpse of Lori thinking that the Lord is gathering his people. So she decides that she's going to move back to Chandler. And it's a shock to the family, but they're like, that crazy Lori, she does whatever she wants.
Yeah.
And then Kobe starts to fall in love with a woman named Kylie. So not to get confused, there's a Tylee, there's a Kylie, there's a Lori, there's going to be like a Rayleigh or something Lee at the end too.
Oh, and my favorite part of the documentary is like when Lori is pregnant. This has already happened with Tylee, and some woman is like, oh, then before she gave birth to her daughter, I just thought, when she told me what the name was, that it was the most beautiful name I've ever heard. We were on bated breath to be like,
yeah,
what is it? And she's like, Tylee. And we were like, Tylee, like Tylee Henner. I mean, come on. No, it's not Tylee. I mean, Tylee is cute as like a little name, but like, and I listen, I think she's gone through it. So I think that Tylee, God rest her soul. Well, anyway, spoiler alert.
So you guys, when Joe's sister says that it was the sweetest name, I said, you haven't heard many names in this world that you thought that was the sweetest name you'd ever heard.
No.
So Kobe is back home in Chandler marrying a Christian, just being a heathen. Just out there, just a blasphemer. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Take this heathen Christian is now taking Kobe away from his mother, replacing her. So much to the point when Kobe gets married, she doesn't even allow Tylee to come to her brother's wedding.
Yeah.
And so he's shocked. He assumed they would be there. But no, it's just Charles, the man who's basically raised him, not the one who molested him, but the other man. And also let's speak. Charles is Lori's fourth husband.
And hottest one. The hottest one.
That's true.
Absolutely.
100%.
Hot.
Just
fit, hot
fit.
People.
And even Janice says so. Lori's mom, Janice, she thinks he's hot too.
And Jenny, she has seen and been around many a hot man. Like Janice knows, so I would take her opinion over anything.
So after the wedding, there's a shift.
Yeah.
And Kobe feels it, and the sister-in-law feels it, who's still in the picture. She feels it. And Lori starts to purchase like all kinds of doomsdayer stuff, like bags of rice, flour, all kinds of grains that she could store away. And she becomes a doomsdayer. And she's really believing that we're about to go into end times. And then Lori tells her ex-sister-in-law that she, just getting so sick of the world that sometimes she just wants to drive off the side of the road with her children. And the sister-in-law says,
"Huh?
No, Lori, that's it."
No follow-up. Here's the thing. I looked at Wall and I was like, can you imagine a world in which I said, Wall, it's November, but in June 2022, which is, or 23, let's just say now next year, world's going to come to end. And I'll just say right now, it's better if I just like go and like kill my whole family. Anyway, I'm going to go pick up and do some milk and go do some yoga. So that is what's happening in my mind. See you soon.
Absolutely. I would literally call every family member that I had in my phone. Then I would go onto Facebook and find more of the faras and be like, hey, Chris has gone crazy, everyone.
Absolutely bananas.
Yeah. Like she just said this to me, get her some help.
All of like Lori's friends will be like, she said this crazy thing, but you know, she just kind of like don't always take it seriously and just think that someone's just like expressing themselves. It's really crazy. And also another thing that Lori does to express herself is have a podcast, and it's called Feel the Fire, which I'm also like,
feel the fire to the limit, to the walls.
Gorgeous. I thought Feel the Fire sounded like the kind of, you know, name that'd be like on a Taco Bell like hot sauce packet, which I would really enjoy. That made me happy. But yeah, so basically it's a podcast where they just talk about, you know, the end of days is near and blah blah blah. I know Nye. But it's two women and they sound just like the beaches from SNL, the skit with Anna Gasteyer and Molly Shannon. Like they have like a very monotone voice and, you know, like they live their lives. So basically so then we come up to the point where Chad and Lori meet. However,
Are we Chad and Lori meet? Oh yeah, we are, because they have this podcast. But Colby this whole time is not knowing that his mother's going crazy. He's just excited that she has friends. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest in our backstage, and we're going to bring her out in just a second. And remember we told you about her? We told you she's coming.
Yes, but you know, you can put your hands together in your own car, but hopefully you're not driving. It'd be awkward. Or just like give like a little like dee or like a little like snap or whatever for our girl and yours, Kate Casey, of course, host of Reality Life with Kate Casey. Hi, Mama.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh my God. Is this?
Oh, we can't hear you.
Oh, really? Oh no. You can't hear me?
Wait 1 second. Say it again. No, I think it's just us.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, yep. That was just us. Okay. We didn't have the volume up on our side.
Okay, good.
Yep, that's on us. I know, I feel so bad. I keep doing that, by the way. It's like the worst part of me. I have so many bad parts. Kate, you, of course, have the best Instagram to follow in the sense of giving us a lot of great details. But one thing that is like imperative to our lives is yours, what to watch. And last night, Juan, I was was clicking through and we were like, let's go see what was on your Instagram.
Good.
This docuseries was there. Yeah. And we were like, okay, we'll start to watch it. And then I texted you and be like, do you want to come on the show? And like, it's the most beautiful thing. We like we listened to your episode, which we'll talk about as well. Okay. Like you are so informative. You're like, you know, you are the modern TV guide for us.
I mean, yeah, like I was like, what do we watch? Oh, I don't know. Let's see what Kate says.
Yeah.
But I also feel like you're gonna like Hostages on HBO. So that's the one you got to watch after this.
Okay.
Ooh.
There's like a lot that you guys could unpack with Hostages. I thought that was like, I'm still thinking about that one.
Oh man. Yeah. Okay. Into it. Hostages, HBO. Listeners, go ahead and watch it so that when we talk about it, you're
my God, it's
for that.
Really
Be
good.
Prepared.
Will be just a snippet is that it's about the 1979 hostage crisis when the student revolutionaries in Iran took over the U.S. embassy, and they were supposed to do it for 48 hours, but kept the Americans hostage for 444 days, and it was right in the middle of the Iranian Revolution. So in the 4 episodes, they tell you in the first episode, like, the backstory on the Shah of Iran and why they wanted him out of the country, and how the revolutionists basically gave cause for the Ayatollah to come in and completely change the country. And then you have former hostages to tell their story. And so it's just amazing. But I just covered it, and it turns out that my daughter's friend, her father escaped from Iran during the revolution. And so at the top of the episode, he tells a story about how his uncles were all assassinated because they were generals in the Shah regime. And so the mom escaped with Mark, my friend, and his siblings, and his dad was left behind to do the basically like tie up all their finances and stuff.
Our jaws are open.
He gets arrested. The dad got arrested. This is 1979. He's put into a prison, and he was a dentist. So prisoners recognized him because he would sometimes go to the prison to fix teeth. So the head of the prison says to him, "You're going to get one phone call. I make this last with your wife." In other words, like, you don't know if you're going to make it out of here. So he calls his wife to say, like, basically like a goodbye call, right? Well, later, one of the prison guards said, "Thank you. I recognize you for helping us out. They're going to assassinate you tomorrow. So I'm going to leave the door of your prison door open. So take it as an opportunity to run." So when the door was opened, he ran out. He got a ride somehow. He gets to the border of Turkey, and he spoke Turkish. So that's how he was able to get out. But it's like, what? I was like, it just happened to say to him, I'm like, oh my God, I'm watching this crazy docuseries on HBO called Hostages about the Iranian Revolution. He goes, yeah, that's when I got out. I'm like, oh my God. Like, so anyway, it's going to make you want to talk to every Persian friend you have just to hear like their family's backstory.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's it's a movie in itself, that person's like life,
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. So from Kate's podcast, it's episode 535, where she talks about this show. And she interviews director Skye Borgman and Dr. Matthias. I think I'm saying his name.
John Matthias. Yeah.
Who is the forensic psychologist who we see briefly in episode 1. And so in this right now, Kate, we're talking about episode 1 of the show. And so far, 33 minutes in, and we have been given so much information.
The pacing of it is really interesting. Like, we just, again, are hot off of watching The Deep End with Teal Swan, which, of course, was done in a really intense, gorgeous way. And there are, of course, some similar themes, right? Like, women who, honey, are coming from like a heavy Mormon situation that are now feeling like they are an alien with certain gifts and certain, celestial knowledges that other people don't have. It's like very, spot on, right?
Yeah.
In similar ways. But yeah, so hot off of that, it does feel like the pacing wise, there is in this episode 1, like in the first 35 minutes, so much information about her exposition. And then I feel like in the episode 3, it lags a little bit. So like, anyway, just, again, only talking about episode 1 so far. What are your thoughts?
Okay. I think that I think that there was definitely some sort of sexual trauma in her family of origin with her. And John Matthias, who is the forensic psychologist who's featured in it, says there seems to have been a very strange relationship between Lori and her father, Barry. In addition to that, there seems to be an odd relationship between Lori and her brother, Alex. Alex was the one who shot her husband.
Sitting on his lap in that picture that they keep showing of her sitting on his lap in that way. And I thought it was weird, but I didn't want to like put my
there's some boundary issues. Yeah. So what happens with Lori is that she grows up in a house with a father who has seems to be some boundary issues. In addition, he's a conspiracy theorist. He believes that the IRS should be abolished. And growing up in a family home where there are no boundary issues and that you have reason to not trust the government is just the tip of the iceberg. Yes. So she ends up getting married several times. But I noticed that after this, so the second time that she gets married, she marries this man, and he's in a home with her son, who's heavily featured in the documentary.
Yes.
He comes to her and says, he has been touching me inappropriately. That seems to me on the scope of Lori Vallow's life when she snaps. I think that and I know this in my mom's case too, that when you're a sexual survivor, for her, she would always say, if I had found out that one of you kids had been assaulted in some way, I don't know what I would have done because I've struggled so much with my own abuse. I think in Lori Vallow's case, that's what snaps her. But because of her family of origin and maybe her faith, she doesn't seek the help of a therapist that helps her unravel that and get some coping skills. So it seems to me that as she keeps getting married and she's trying to find answers, she becomes more and more religious and pushes herself into the brand of people that believe in the apocalypse.
Yep.
It's almost like, I can't believe the way my life is here on earth and who I have surrounded myself with. So I'm going to believe in the afterlife, that there's going to be the end of the world and I'm part of the chosen people. So she's already in this crazed mental state, and then meets Chad Vallow, who is this author who made up stories about the apocalypse, but then got to have a bunch of ex-Mormon people join his group and like come to see him speak. And I think then he gets this God complex, like lots of cult leaders do, where he went from writing about fiction to suddenly like, oh no, this is the truth. I've seen the future. I hear voices. I know what's going to happen to the end of the world. So he met her at a time where she was getting more and more crazy, and it's like a recipe for disaster. So when I interviewed Dr. John Matthias, he said brilliantly, he compared Lori Vallow and the way she looks at the world to that of someone like Muhammad Atta, who was a 9/11 terrorist. For both of those people, they believe in a life after death. They so believe in this like delusional space after death that who they are and what happens on the earth is almost immaterial. And the people that will suffer in their wake, it doesn't matter because their eye is completely on the afterlife.
Yeah.
So in other words, if her children are missing and they're dead because they're inhabited by zombies, she's making the life for them better in the afterlife.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bother her that they're missing. It doesn't bother her that they're dead. It doesn't bother her the way they were killed, because in her mind, they're now in a safe place, in the same way that Muhammad Atta didn't care about the 3,000 people that were killed in the World Trade Center, because he believes he's going to go to the afterlife and be like surrounded by virgins.
Yeah.
It's their crazy reality. So that's why people are like, when people are asking her, where are your children? What happened to your husband? All these people are dying around you. She doesn't really give an answer. In fact, she like laughs at people. She has been known to be in her jail cell today, singing at night. She's gone so far over the deep end. There's like no hope for her to ever give us any real answers.
Well, yeah, as you said, like 2 days ago, she just found to be not competent, or questionable to be not competent again to stand trial. And so, which anyway, we are. As we're watching this is episode 1, but I mean, I've already talked about certain things that have happened. They tried and frame. Let me ask you this: they try and frame the story in such a way like to find out certain things that you might already know, because this story was big news and I already knew it before watching the docuseries. Did you know about Lori Vallow?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Were you like, I feel like I remember when they couldn't find her kids and they found her in Kauai, and I remember the conversation with Chad Daybell. It's Charles Vallow and Chad Daybell.
Chad Daybell, yeah.
Yep.
So where like, where's your kids? And she's like,
when they're in Hawaii, and she's just smiling. But that's,
she has perfect curly hair too. Her hair, I mean, because they had just got married the day after.
Lots of Botox. Now you see her in jail, and it's like the face is fallen and the hair and everything. She was a very vain woman. But then I think that in her family of origin, she was sexualized, and how she looked was probably her value. There's like warped beliefs there. The other thing that I thought was interesting about the docuseries, because I felt like I was pretty much a scholar on Lori Vallow at that point. And then when I started to watch it, I realized that all those text messages were going to be included. And it reminded me of the other documentary they did on Netflix about the man that killed his whole family, his wife and 2 kids, the family annihilation story, Shanann Watts.
No.
Where you saw the documentary was told in the perspective of the woman, so the wife who was killed. So you see all of her text messages and her communication on Facebook. I thought they did a great job in this docuseries in the same way that even though if you felt like you knew so much about this case, seeing the text messages between Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell takes this to a whole new level. So when I interviewed Sky, who she, by the way, she was the director of Abducted in Plain Sight, which is a really good documentary, and A Girl in the Picture. She's so good. She said that they were pretty much done with the docuseries, but then those text messages were released. So they scrapped so much of it to make sure that there was an emphasis on those text messages, because by doing that, you're seeing in real time the level of crazy.
Yeah.
You're seeing it play out in a whole, it's just so visceral. You just are like, those kids, there was no hope for them. Yeah. The other thing is, I was always frustrated with Melanie, the cousin. Whenever she was interviewed, she was very cagey. And by seeing those text messages and understanding Dr. John Mathias's outlook, that's why Melanie is cagey about the answers too, because she's never going to give you an answer you want, because she just believes that everybody that's died is in a good place, and that's all that matters. Like they feel like they did a good thing by killing these people, because zombies inhabited their bodies.
Yeah, it's like, it's interesting when we think about writers that start to think that their stories are true, like L. Ron Hubbard. Like what L. Ron Hubbard's idea of end of life or end of days, and like Thetans, and like
the same thing with the same thing with the fundamental LDS. Like they all believe that they're going to get their own universe, and their wives are, like they're going to get their own celestial kingdom. And it's always like, just so interesting that whenever there is this heavy emphasis on the afterlife, that people are just able to make these wild choices. And I don't know like what those correlations are. Like I was telling Chris earlier, is there something in the Mormon church? And yes, there is. Like whatever the fundamentalists believe must be in the like Book of Mormon somewhere, where it says you're going to get a celestial kingdom, because before the fundamentalists broke off, they all believed that. By the amount of wives you had and how holy you were, and there was one prophet, and all of that jazz. So it's like when that happens, it's just like a breeding ground for that fundamental like thought. And when things don't happen right in your life, especially if you're in a religion where optics are very important, and you're in a tight-knit community, that can create space for abuse of different kinds, as well as this like, well, it doesn't matter, it's all about the afterlife. Like this time on earth is fleeting, and you'll have eternity in heaven.
It's like the opposite of YOLO. It's just like,
really,
it's you'll always live. You'll always live. This one, just get rid of this one.
Yeah. Can you
Life is like the tissue box, honey. Get rid of this tissue, one will just pop right back up.
Totally. Yeah, I just thought this story was so fascinating. Now here's the turn of events, is that the son, who's featured heavily, if you Google it, he is getting divorced from his wife, and she said that he assaulted her, and he admitted to it, in like she recorded him. So you feel such empathy for this young man, he's probably his 30s, but that he's been raised by this lunatic mom, and then you hear that he assaulted his wife, and you're like, oh, man, this is just dark.
First of all, that's horrifying. It's interesting. I was going to say the docuseries in itself I feel like paints Lori in a very vulnerable and like light that is like a victim, not a victim of like circumstance and of like religion and just harsh beliefs and whatnot. It doesn't. It's like it doesn't really talk about what also happened in the marriages that she had, like how many like there's things she's painted in a very like pristine way.
They also said that Barry, her father, and her mother just seems like she seems like the quintessential mother that there's like abuse in the home, but she turns a blind eye. Like we had a wonderful family, and you're like, really? Yeah. She did say, and so did the father, that she was always a very religious child.
Yes.
So then you're like, oh, she was the perfect person. That's why I think that she snapped with that second marriage and the husband assaulting her son. I think that's where it all really began to go south.
How do you ever say that your 8-year-old looked at you with such awe and then you knew that they were just so Christ-like? And even like the sister-in-law, Joe's sister, saying that Lori always needed to say that the reason why she was doing what she was doing is because the Lord was talking to her.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wheel of Fortune, the Lord, honey. Like, first of all, I wish the Lord would tell me that I was going to be on, like,
I love the voices in your head. Yeah. That's directly from the Lord.
Yeah.
I know it is wild to me when I hear someone say, well, the Lord told me. I'm like, well, does he have an accent?
Yeah.
Like, is there music in the background? Like, what?
Yeah.
How do you distinguish your Lord, the Lord in your head versus your random thoughts? Because listen, the Lord is talking to me too. Then
the Lord told me I would love to hear some more 80s music. The Lord told me I should eat some tacos. Like, what are they talking about?
What did you think about the fact that Kobe also made kind of like a YouTube presence about his story?
I think that family is all about recognition and acknowledgement. Like it's all surface in their family. Let's put out this imagery that we're this wonderful family with 5 kids. We're like the perfect Utah family. I think that sometimes people that leave the Mormon faith are angered by the culture that they grew up in. It seems like that's a thing that I hear a lot. And I feel like I've done, like, I interviewed the woman that took down Warren Jeffs, Alyssa Wall.
Yeah.
And she's talked a lot about that. She said it's like you have, even in the FLDS church, it's like to put this image out that like you're so happy, like everything is wonderful, like you could never ever project anything other than complete joy all the time.
Yeah, which is crazy because I mean, it's also interesting because these communities are so tight knit, but they're like, except for the FLDS, the communities are tight knit, but you're still out in the world. Like it's I could see it 100% from those who like stayed sweet and pray and obey, but the Mormon kind of fundamentalists that are conservative folk that are just like moving about Utah, they probably are like can feel, I guess, more anger because they're in the world yet they still don't see it.
Yeah,
and it's got to be very frustrating because not everybody can keep up that facade. I think it's a very specific trait to be able to fake the funk in that way.
Christine couldn't. I'll tell you that right now. Christine was over it, honey. Christine Brown, honey. I mean, no, Christine had put up with it for so long, with so many seasons of having to be like, everything's fine. No, we all love Robin's great. I'm so happy.
There's also some element of all those faiths being like you're stuck. It reminds me of my aunt who was a nun, and she left when she was like 22, and she ended up marrying my uncle. And I remember asking her, why did you leave the convent? And she said, I felt like I was in a perpetual state of adolescence. And I feel like it's the same with some of these faiths. Like they're stuck in this perpetual adolescence. There's a naivety to them. So it's like they're the perfect person to compromise.
Yeah, it's kind of like someone who loves Disneyland as an adult, and I like Disneyland as an adult.
Yeah. Oh, not me. I think that's totally disturbing.
But listen, you have to go as an Orange County mom, right?
I've gone maybe 3 times.
I have an annual pass. Anytime you want me to go, and like I'll take a kid.
Okay, please do, because I'm never going there. That's because when I was at the Milton Hershey School, we got free tickets to Hershey Park.
Oh,
so the town of Hershey hated us because we were all like orphaned, poor kids. And I mean, the football game, it was like Milton Hershey versus Hershey High. It was the big football game called the Cocoa Bean. And the chant that Hershey would go, yes, 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 we do. We've got parents. How about you? Horrible.
That's
so when we
not
would go
nice.
When we would go into the town of Hershey or Hershey Park, they always knew that we were Milton Hershey students, which were called Milts, because we'd have to wear like certain outfits, like we were an occultist too, but they just could see. I mean, also because many of us were like, not that I am, but like a lot were minorities in a very white town.
Yeah.
So it just felt like I hated going to Hershey Park because I felt like I can't enjoy this because everyone's like, oh, it's the poor kids. It's the, So I feel like that stained my amusement park experience.
Okay, listen, we're adults now, and there's California Adventure has alcohol. Okay,
But also, Small World smells like asbestos.
that's one out of many, many different rides. And again, California Adventure
Okay.
has like some newer rides. And does say alcohol?
Listen, I'm going to stop the bullying right now because Chris will tear you down to try to get you to go to Disneyland. But Kate, we don't want to take up too much of your Sunday night. So can you just like tell us? I know that you have a show coming up November 20th, I believe, in New York, and then December 3rd in LA. So
God just like
let us know all the details of where they can find you and
November 20th, City Winery in New York City, a live show, and then a live show at December 3rd in Los Angeles at the Hollywood Improv. And then you can get my must-watch list by going to katecasey.substack.com. Get that, because every Monday I put a guide of what to watch. For example, this week coming up, I have 38 at the Garden, which is about Jeremy Lin, the basketball player, who was a walk-on, like basketball player, like an unbelievable story, great story. One about women's soccer fighting back allegations of abuse. That's called Truth Be Told on ESPN Plus. Oh, and wait, this is another one. You guys, oh my God, you have to watch it. It's finally airing on PBS. It's called Accepted. So it's a documentary about this school called TM Landry in New Orleans. So you would recognize it because they would do all these viral TikToks of kids finding out they got into colleges. It'd be like they got into Harvard and Dartmouth and Brown, and it'd be like all minority students pretty much. It was like, oh my God, they got into Harvard. Unbelievable. And then you find out the school is like very avant-garde. Like you basically you go in the morning and you're there all night long, but it's like, you don't want to leave because it's so fun. And we don't have textbooks. And you're like, okay, you don't have textbooks, but you're getting into Harvard. Like what? So this documentary film crew went to film them because of the TikTok. They're like, this is like an unbelievable school. So halfway through filming, there's an expose by the New York Times that they were lying and fudging numbers to get the kids like into those schools. So I interviewed the director because it was like, were you shitting bricks? And so you see it all unravel. It's crazy. So anyway, that comes out on the 10th, October 10th. So what is that? That's tomorrow. So it's on PBS. It's called Accepted. That's a really good documentary.
Okay, I really want to see it. One more thing. Did you watch the Bling Ring one? People love that Bling Ring one.
I didn't like it because I felt like two things. One, a little bit tone deaf when we have so many people in Los Angeles that are being burglarized and murdered. Like Clarence Avon's wife was murdered. The Bling Ring is basically about people stealing Forever 21 satchels from Audrina Patridge from the Hills. Like like a little tone deaf. Also, they were so smug. They didn't even feel bad about what they did. They're just kind of like, yeah, like we totally broke into our house. And I just felt like you're assholes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's such a breach.
I wanted to laugh at them. So that was the reason why I brought it up. I love you so much. And I'm so pumped for your live show in LA for sure. And I wish I could just be, wish I could go to both of them. I love New York. You're the best, and happy Halloween,
Oh, I know. I can't wait to drive past your house and see all the decorations.
Yeah.
Oh, can I bring the kids over? Do you give candy out? Is it good candy?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's legit.
Yeah.
We've
full size.
We've been
full size candy bars.
Yeah, tiny, decadent, luxury and decadent.
Wow. Do you think I should dress up for Halloween, or like I just get to Halloween and I'm like, I'm entertaining all year long. I can't do it tonight.
Yes. I want to be Teal Swan.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Should I be Lori Vallow?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
but it's the
like black. I love the outfit that she wore during the Miss America pageant or whatever it was.
Oh,
so you have to get a Texas sash.
I don't know.
No, do the Hawaii one. Yeah, do the Hawaii waves.
Hawaii with the waves.
Yeah.
But will people be like, so you dressed up as the woman who murdered her kids? Well, one year I was a polygamous wife. I'll send you the picture. And I had somebody make me a polygamous gown, and I had a French braid, and I put one of the kids in a baby Bjorn. But here's the worst part. None of my neighbors seem to be fazed by it. I have so many kids. They're just like, she's probably an FLDS person anyway.
They were like,
I was like, guys, I'm a polygamous wife. Maybe half the people don't even know what that is. Maybe
you were a sister wife and nobody gave you the validation.
No.
I'm gonna send you the picture. You guys will die.
They're like, she's like a cute, like cottagecore prairie dress wearing girl.
It was like that horrible green color too. That I think my mom called it puce, but I don't think that's the color. It was like throw up green.
Yeah.
Oh, puke green.
Yeah. My favorite.
It's like those when you go to your grandmother's house and she would give you those like pastel colored mints that just like melt in your mouth. It's like that color. Yeah.
Actually, that sounds great.
I hate those mints.
Oh, I like them. I like them.
You love old people candy.
Oh, nothing better.
She sure does.
She likes Werther's. She likes those little strawberry ones with the
I like
in the
Werther's.
center, with the like gooeys in the center.
She says she loves Werther's.
I like Werther's. I think that's an underrated candy, and I don't like candy, but that's a good candy.
I like caramels. I love a caramel, honey.
I like a butterscotch.
Oh yeah, butterscotch. Yeah. That's what Werther's is butterscotch. I like Werther's. I'm just saying that, it was just one of the old people candies. That's elite old people candy.
Like a York peppermint patty, but only if it's been frozen.
Ooh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
We did not know, honey, but we're coming for it.
I used to go to Becky Merrill's house, and her dad used to give us vanilla ice cream and pour creme de menthe on it, and we would eat it. Is that weird?
That's alcohol, right?
It sure is. It sure is.
It sounds great.
No, it sounds illegal.
You would pour
children alcohol.
Pour alcohol on our vanilla ice cream.
They wanted you to go to sleep, is what they did. They got you guys a little bit of you sometimes the old school thing of putting bourbon in bottles so kids will just go to sleep.
Yes, maybe.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. Anyway,
probably worked like a charm.
Sleepovers,
probably. Oh my God. By the way, no one does sleepovers anymore, which is kind of great. All parents kind of all are in agreement. Like there's no point to sleepovers.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I can't send my kid to a sleepover. If my hypothetical child.
At a certain age,
no one does it.
I disagree. It's like I think it's a part of like girl passage. I think that it's like you have to like.
No, because it's always like they say that an abducted in plain sight is like a perfect example of this. Is that they say that it's not always the weird dad. It's like the cousins or the brothers.
Yeah, you have to know. Do you have brothers?
Know the family.
Do you have cousins? Are they going to be there? Like, because you don't want to put your child in a situation where they could be. I mean, that's how I was raised. I wasn't allowed to sleep at people's houses because they were like, children get molested at people's houses.
Yes, your parents were way ahead of their time. They really were.
My dad's an immigrant, so yeah. It's
there you go.
Cool. Yeah.
My mom would let me sell Girl Scout cookies by myself in a neighborhood. Like, if they offer to give you dinner, cool, stay as long as you want, walk home.
Just as long as like you got your subscription sold, honey.
Also,
just sell a bunch. Yeah, I was home at like 10 p.m. and I would have sold like 2 boxes of Thin Mints. My mom's like, okay.
Not even by the street lamp? Like you didn't have to be home by the street lamps going on?
No, because I lived in like suburban Philadelphia where it was just like neighborhoods where there was just like wooded area. So I had to know the tree branch to go under to get back to my house.
God, gosh, similar time.
Yeah.
I'm an only child, so my dad was like so happy for me to like have anyone over or leave. That was just me. I love you. I love you.
Thank you so much, Kate. We'll give you back your evening. Thank you so much for coming on. You guys go check out Kate Casey and you have a good night.
You too. Okay, goodbye.
Bye. At katecasey.com or sorry, at KKC on Instagram is definitely like imperative following.
Yeah.
So happy that we had her on and we love her so much. So go ahead and give her podcast a listen if you for some reason haven't.
So let's just wrap this episode up. So at the end of this episode, Lori, after she moves back to Chandler, Arizona, decides that she wants to get away from Charles because she's already met Chad and Charles is not up to snuff. So she devised like a story where Charles is cheating because she realizes that Charles has kind of uncovered some like uncouth behavior from her. And so she tells her entire family that Charles is cheating and she has evidence of it. And then when Charles like tells the family that he's found evidence that she's cheating and that she has been
crazy and like pretends that his name is Ned now, like not Ned Flanders, but like another Ned Sanders, something like I don't know, like it is bananas. Like, yeah, he's gone. There is no Charles. It's now Ned, and Ned's a weird demon, and Ned's now my husband. And I found that Ned's been looking online, and like she gets messages, but she doesn't send it to anyone. And so she tells him that she has all this stuff, and he just is like comes home. Stuff? Emails against her that like she's like, I have evidence, and so he like is like, what evidence? He's like, I'm gonna take your car, I'm gonna take all your stuff. He comes back and she like did.
Yeah, so he finds evidence that Chad had given her a list of the people in her life who had dark spirits in them. He sends this all out to her family saying, this woman is crazy. Something is going on with Lori. Help me. But she has already planted the seeds that he was cheating. So nobody believes him because it just sounds like he's making this up to cover up his cheating tracks. Now, Charles he travels for work. So one time he's gone for work and he's in like Texas somewhere. Mm-hmm. And during this time is when she goes in and she cancels his flight back home, sends her brother Alex, the one that there's a boundary issue with, sends her brother Alex to the airport to get his vehicle to keep him stranded and not allow him. So even if he does get back to Arizona, that he does no ride to get home, even though he could just Uber, but And so then like he tries to reach, the only family member who will talk to him is her oldest brother, Adam. So Adam enters the chat and he's like, something's going on. This time Adam is like living in Kansas. So Adam is completely out of the loop. And so he's just like, believing Charles because I guess like his last couple interactions with Charles were positive. The police get called in because he's like, I don't know what my wife is going to do. Go.
No, I think that also like, he's like, my sister sounds crazy. Yeah. So I think he's have to take Charles aside because like, he's like, yeah, I talked to Lori and she sounds bananas.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Lori thinks they're going to start some sort of intervention and Adam's in on it. So she gets her brother Alex to be on her side. Yeah. And when Charles finally gets to Arizona, there's an agreement that he's going to pick up the son JJ and take him to school. And this is at this point where Charles meets his demise by being shot 2 times in the chest by Alex.
Yeah. And it's very weird, like exactly what went down. It's like Lori was there with Tylee and JJ in the morning. And then like, when was it shot? Because they were arguing. And then, at some point, Lori just takes all the kids and leaves and like drops JJ off at school. But
goes
like,
to Burger King, buys some flip-flops. Like, it's just like a whole weird scenario. And the police don't understand the timeline of it. So they just like let Alex go because Alex says that he was hit in the back of the head and it was self-defense. And I said, only in a place where you have like an open carry or like gun law can you kill somebody because they had a baseball bat. Like, it's like,
I don't catch up with that. Like, I think that is a weapon though. So you can shoot someone who's like,
yeah, I guess. But what I'm talking about is the fact that like someone can come at you with a weapon that cannot kill you and you can come back with them with a weapon that definitely will kill them. So it's just like, it was a lot going on. And, when the police come, she feels real chill. And also when we hear the 911 call from Alex, he's like, yeah, so I just killed my brother-in-law, self-defense. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll try CPR. He's like, okay, I'm trying. It's not working. Yeah, this man didn't even try. His voice is not even panicked. He didn't put on speaker. He didn't even pretend. Didn't even try.
You don't hear any muffling on him, like nothing. Like Lori has this thing when the cops like talk to her. She like comes up and she's like, "Hey guys, yeah, no, we just moved to this neighborhood. Boy, are my neighbors probably like, she's crazy, but it's just a normal day for me, Lori." It's like very cash.
Yeah,
the cops
crazy.
Are like, "Oh, so sorry to hear that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're normal. Okay, you're normal. Yeah. I get it. Yeah, mm-hmm. Like." What a weird thing that happened to you. Like it's really goes to show you pretty privilege.
They're so blasé about Alex has just killed a man. Like they just let him go.
Yeah, they do.
They see that he has they take him into the like whatever, and then they interview everybody, and he has like an inch gash on the back of his head, and it was.
It was overwhelmingly shocking how bad the cops were and how they just didn't think anything was serious, as if their job wasn't serious, as if these things happen, like someone just died. Oh, well, this person didn't have a whole family and sons you have to talk to. It's it is hard. This whole this series is difficult to watch, you know, like it touches on a lot of themes that we talked about already, but
you should watch it.
But we absolutely should.
You should watch it. So this is where we end with episode 1. And so we'll get more into the call and the situation in next episode. But note that this is the first murder. This is the first death.
Yeah, that will be the last, honey.
It won't.
We want to give our special thanks to Kate Casey for coming on and giving her expertise, my loves. As you know, we talk more and more about murder. This one's a good Halloween one to start about. You know?
And you can definitely find her again on her podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's called Reality Life with Kate Casey, and she just does we're funny and we like just talk about the cuff of our head. But if you like want like a timeline, if you want like someone to just give you the facts.
Kate Casey. Type A to the max. Like she's perfect.
Kate Casey's she's on the case.
Yeah, she's on the Kate Casey.
Kate Casey's on the case.
Casey. Okay. We love you guys so much. So you can follow us, of course, Instagram and Twitter at DocuSweeties, DocuSweeties1 on Twitter and DocuSweeties1 on TikTok. We give you live feed video with every one of our podcasts. Of course, you're listening to for free, but if you want to give us a little money, how would you do it, Walt?
You would do it on patreon.com/DocuSweeties. It's $10 a month. You get the visual and the unedited version of what you were hearing here today.
Mm-hmm. And we're cute. And so you can see Kate too. Yay! So we love you guys so much. And we want you to have, happy Halloweeny, spooky October. And,
we'll see you later
for 2 and 3.
Bye.
Bye.